When Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, he saw that the Jewish people were threatened by tragedy. He would go to a particular place in the forest where he lit a fire, he recited a prayer, and he asked for a miracle to save the Jews from the threat. Now, because of the holy fire and the powerful prayer, the miracle was accomplished, averting the tragedy. Later, when the Baal Shem Tov's disciple, the Maggid of Mezrich, had to intervene with heaven for the same reason, he went to the same place in the forest, where he told the master of the universe that while he did not know how to light the fire, he could still recite the prayer. And again, the miracle was accomplished. Later still, the disciple of the Maggid of Mezrich in turn went into the forest to save his people. And he called out, "I do not know how to light the fire." And he pleaded with God, "I do not know the prayer, but I can find the place. And this has to be sufficient." And once again, the miracle was accomplished, averting the tragedy. So when it came time for the next generation to avert the threat, the great-grandson of the Maggid, he sat in his armchair, holding his head in his hands, and he said to God, "I am unable to light the fire. I do not know the prayer, and I cannot even find the place in the forest. All I can do is tell the story, and that must be enough." Rabbi Stephen told me something he learned from Rabbis Daniel Siegel and Chana Tiferet. They said that every shul has a story. And when people forget the story, they lose the sense of the shul. And so I'd like to remind us of our story. Some members of the shul where Jeff Bassick was serving as student rabbi saw he was being treated unfairly. And they also saw that Rabbi Jeff had something important to offer. So our story holds a vision. According to Rabbi Jeff, his vision was a move away from the more modern, cerebral, legalistic presentations of Judaism. He wanted to find a more heartful and heartfelt Judaism. And so in 2007, a community began to passionately form around him. Erica Breslau, one of our founding members, remembers that at the beginning, the support for choosing the name Kol Halev was unanimous because it means the voice of the heart. Erica says it represented what we were undertaking. They were looking for spiritual growth and what it really meant to be Jewish. And this passion for fair treatment of others, a heart-centered Judaism, and the desire for evolution is the fire that is our foundation. Kol Halev, the voice of the heart. Now, the word heart in Hebrew, lev, is spelt with two letters, lamed bet. In the new year today, we come close to the end of the Torah, completing the cycle for the year. And the last word of the Torah, the very last word, is Yisrael, which ends with a lamed. So when we reach the end of the Torah, that lamed, we scroll all the way back to the beginning. We scroll to the beginning of the book, and the first word is Bereshit, meaning in the beginning, which begins with a bet. So when we join the last letter of the Torah with the first letter of the Torah, we have lev, the Hebrew word for heart. And when we scroll the Torah all the way from the end to the beginning, there is a great big gap, right? There's a break in the story. The lev of the Torah is not a linear heart that goes from beginning to end. To get from the end of the Torah back to the beginning again is a lev with a break, is a heart with a break, a proverbial broken heart. And yet the heart of the Torah is a heart that when it comes to an end, begins again. So right here, our community has dealt with changes in the fabric of our foundations, and we are still in the unknown of new beginnings. Rabbi Jeff's retirement has marked a period of significant change for our community these past few years. And then with not filling the rabbi position after the search, there was uncertainty. And really, this is only a small reflection of the many unaverted tragedies of our world and uncertainty. And of course, then there's always the realities of our personal lives too. So from a personal, communal, and global angles, we've all had to call upon our strength these past few years. And yet we join together today for the first time in 3 years in person as well as online, having chosen and choosing to be here at Kol Halev for Rosh Hashanah, the holiday of renewal. The Torah also recounts origin stories in its content, the origin stories of our people. And today we tell origin stories of broken hearts specifically. In our Torah portion today, we read about Sarah banishing Hagar. Hagar also had a child with Sarah's husband Abraham, and Sarah had jealousy around Abraham's relationship with Hagar and feared Hagar's son taking away a birthright from her own son, Isaac. Because of her hurting heart and jealousy, Sarah banishes Hagar to the desert. Sarah creates a huge tear in the heart of Hagar. And for thousands of years, the rabbis have tried to justify and understand the hurt in Sarah, even saying her choice was a prophetic one, which is another way of saying we don't understand, so there must be a bigger purpose. We, however, we can try to understand her jealousy, her fear, her broken heart, and the mechanisms at play underneath her very hurtful actions. Additionally, the story of Hannah is our Haftorah portion today. It tells the story of her broken heart about not having a child. It says, and Hannah spoke in her heart, only her lips moved. So Eli the priest who saw her thought she was drunk. Eli had never seen someone praying so passionately before. And Hannah is where we get our model for modern prayer. No more offerings, just us standing, hearts pouring forth words of pain and hope. The Gemara extracts many lessons about prayer from the way that Hannah prayed. When it says, and Hannah spoke in her heart, the lesson derived in the Talmud is that one who prays must focus their heart. And when it says only her lips moved, we learn that one who prays must enunciate the words with their lips, not only contemplate them in their heart. The heart's voice must be spoken. And since Kol Halev means the voice of the heart, it begs the question, what are the voices of our hearts? In Rabbinic Hebrew, lev does not always mean exclusively the heart. More often it conveys the general idea of the insides, the interior of the body. And the blessing that the rabbis want to give is that the shofar should be sounded 100 times on this day. And the word used for the shofar's voice is kol ha-shofar, the voice of the shofar. So to understand shofar blowing according to the intention of the Baal Shem Tov, he says that the meaning of kol, voice, is a primal sound. A primal sound which emerges from the air at the heart center. The heart of Kol Halev is a full-bodied heart whose voice comes from deep inside. The first time I walked into Kol Halev, Rabbi Jeff was leading a Torah discussion, and everyone was contributing their ideas comfortably and fearlessly. The community shared thoughts about Mesopotamian art and frustration about the lack of women's voices in Torah and other feminist thought, and you shared feelings, personal experiences, and commented on current events. And Rabbi Stephen and I have learned this year through much experience that when we're planning a prayer service, we can plan, but more often than not, we have to leave space for passionate discussion to arise in the community. So we come prepared to skip whole sections of the service every Shabbat just in case the conversation really comes to life, which it always does. We at Kol Halev are not afraid of the sound of our own voices, and that is a gift. So today, let's encounter the voices of our hearts. So much so that Eli would think we were all drunk, because this is the voice we need to listen to today as we renew ourselves in our community. In addition to everything else that Mordechai Kaplan did, including founding the movement of Reconstructionism, he taught homiletics, the art of preaching, at the Jewish Theological Seminary. One of his students, Arthur Hertzberg, recalled how on a Monday, Kaplan would model a sermon of the weekly Torah reading. And then, on Wednesday, a student would do the same. And Kaplan was notorious for tearing into his students' sermons, instilling so much fear that when Hertzberg's term came, he delivered word for word the remarks that Kaplan had shared just 2 days before. And when Hertzberg finished, Kaplan proceeded to tear into Hertzberg's sermon. But Dr. Kaplan, Hertzberg pleaded, I'm only saying what you said the other day. Ah, but Arthur, came the reply, I've evolved since then. We have to be different on the other end of this service than when we entered. Our world, our community, we ourselves evolve, and that's done through expanding the heart, through growing the heart, and we evolve the heart through tending to the next phase of its regeneration. Perhaps it is not an open heart, a closed heart, a full heart, or even a broken heart that truly matters. It is the voice of the heart that does. The true voice of the heart. Because by really sharing what's inside, really what's inside, we heal. There's a common device in the interpretation of Hebrew where we link words that sound the same even if they have different meanings. So we spell kol with a kuf, meaning voice, the voice of the heart. But kol, when spelled with a kaf, which sounds exactly the same, means all. This would make the name, our name, the whole heart. And each person in this community is part of the heart. And the stirrings and speakings of our heart as a community are so important. If we're politically active, we want to come from a place of wholeness and repair. If we relate to lashing out like Sarah, it's not going to bring repair to the world. What we do as a community for each other by speaking from even the conflicted parts of ourselves for each other is part of bringing wholeness to the larger world. And so, about Rosh Hashanah, the holiday of newness. The Netivot Shalom, the Slonimer Rebbe, my favorite Rebbe, says that Rosh Hashanah may be known as a day of judgment, but it only appears that way. It really is the day of assessment. The Netivot Shalom teaches that each and everything in this world, humans, each species, each institution, the earth herself, has a role to play, has a purpose in action and being. We are written into the book of life on this day of assessment if our role helps fulfill the highest purpose of creation. It's not that we're being judged or punished because we did something bad, but the question is, does this thing in the world still have a role to play? So in Reconstructionism, many of us don't relate to a God that has control judging us or even assessing us. But Rosh Hashanah can be an opportunity to assess the point of evolution in our hearts. And with Kol Halev, we must ask, is our mission still an active mission? The voice of the shofar and the shofar's legacy is said to be able to shatter all pettiness and triviality. What the world really needs now are strong voices of wisdom that have the experience of longevity, survivors whose hearts know how to go from an end to the beginning again. And we need leaders who can get people there. We are no longer a young community just starting out. We have a story that has evolved and deepened with change. We have exercised the muscle of our expanding heart. And being a more mature community comes with seeing a bigger picture, a larger universe with more spiritual perspective. Jean Houston, the writer and philosopher, says, aging may be the greatest gift, the greatest evolutionary gift to society. And here we are on Rosh Hashanah, ready to move forward, claiming all we've been through. And Kol Halev has a bigger heart today than anyone could have ever imagined. We are in the perfect place, the exact place we need to be for renewal this year. So I bless us this Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, that we can hear our own voices and the voices of others through evolving times. And I bless us that the continuation of our story will hold this gift of our community that urges us to keep speaking from deep inside, to each internalize and claim and reclaim over and over again the name Kol Halev. Shana Tova. For a good and a sweet year